really excited to dive into the story because we had the privilege of interviewing your CEO earlier this year, Dia, who's phenomenal. So we got a taste of what the tequila is like, but we want to hear more about the team building and the story behind it. So maybe we start there and we start with your background. And I know family legacy plays into the story a little bit. So I'd love to hear from you. Tell us more about what inspired you to create this tequila.
My family has been in the wine and spirit business for a very long time. I always wanted to work in film, was never allowed. So I had to do finance. So I did studied finance in college, moved to New York to finally do acting about 15 years ago. And very happily been doing that for, 15 years professionally now, both directing and acting. But so this was like, oh, something that I knew how to do and also be creative. So there was another way of storytelling. And my cousin was actually the one that really pushed me to do it. He was like, hey, why don't you view this as another form of storytelling? You can tell it on a canvas, or you can tell it on a screen, or you can tell it on a bottle. And I was like, well, that's really interesting, but is there a story here to be told? It had to be tequila if I was going to do anything, because tequila is my poison of choice. And also, people tell you that you better really like your product because you're going to try it a lot. It is not an understatement. Like, I went into it thinking, that's something that people say, but once you actually are into it, you're like, oh, it's 8:30 in the morning, and I'm doing a Zoom, and it's 5 o'clock wherever that Zoom is, and I better be drinking my product. And but not that I recommend, drink responsible. But what I'm saying is it is important that you do like your product. So tequila had to be, it was the obvious choice. And I knew I had a great grandfather that went from Spain to Mexico. But it's one of those stories that, your family tells, and you're like, sure, that'll be useful for never, no one said ever said. And actually it turned out it did. I started digging. His name was actually Diego Osorio, and as an artist, I'm a big believer in science. So I was like, well, that's really interesting. Would he experience tequila? How he would have experienced tequila? And then I found out that he would take the same wine that we still produce today, the same sherries, the brandies that my family produced, and I have nothing to do with, and take those barrels with him to Mexico, drink it, because why would you take it if you're not going to drink it, and then fill it up with the local agave spirit, what we know today as tequila. And obviously, knowing the industry and growing up around it, I was like, well, that's really interesting. Those sherry finish that we produce, and we see in the high end bourbons and the high end whiskeys, and that kind of thing. Could we do that finish in tequila? Is that an exercise that is worth exploring? And even if it's, and again, like, people think it's a marketing plot or a marketing line, but really this was just for fun, for friends and family, just to be creative on the side, and then it kind of snowballed.
What makes this liquid? I know it's so special to you. So what makes it the formula that it is? Well, how did you define the winning formula?
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I think I had the luck to think that everyone had their own voice. Meaning, if I had to bring a sherry finish, I had to bring someone that really knew how to make sherries. Because it's always shocking to me. And growing up, I saw a lot of the brands that come to my family and buy those barrels. They don't really ask a lot of questions. They don't really interact. They just sort of come, get the barrel, get the certificate, and fly out. And for me, the master distiller down there, he's been doing sherries for 40 years. I was like, I would want to talk to him. I want to know about it. It's like, what is this vintage like? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's so many questions that I would have. And because I couldn't ask those questions, and what I did is I took him in a paid vacation because I had no money. I stole 20 barrels of my family, shipped them to Mexico, and then I worked with the master distiller from Mexico, from the tequila, and then myself. So that's why I say to be lucky than good, is because this three very hard-headed, opinionated Latin men, getting together and bushing heads, and thinking and defending what they thought it was the right percentage of their finish or their touch or their heritage. That friction is what made the liquid really special. And probably if we were all more diplomatic, there would be less iterations. But the iterations were the way where we were in packs of about 15 to 20 every different samples. And we would pick winners and understand what was the aging, the oxidization, the amount of time in one barrel, the amount of time in the other barrel, the fermentation process. So it really took a lot of time, and it was a beautiful time. And looking back, it was such a just myself and just like so beautiful and pure, that I think it translated now that we are sharing it kind of with the world, that kind of friction and that kind of love to the liquid, it translates in the bottle, I think.
Tell us about how you approach team building and what qualities you look for in new hires.
I'm a big believer that if it's a person that cares and it feels like family and it feels like we're, rowing in the same direction, um, the resume and the expertise and that kind of thing will come. I might be naive about it, but I think we are 50 something people now, depending on where you put the line, in Lobos, and it does feel like a big family. And we've been hiring in that process. It's like, yes, there's an expertise and there's, a gap to feel, but we care about, diversity. We care about values. We care about trust, and family. And, we really we have a model inside, which is the strength of the pack is the wolf and the strength of the wolf is the pack, which sounds a little cheesy, but it is something to live by. It is, you are as strong as your weakest link, and you are, as strong as your whole pack, right? As your individual. So, um, hiring is just part of that process. It's chemistry, obviously knowledge and that kind of thing. But I do feel like a lot of it's so unique to its position, and every company is so different, and every aspect is so different, that a lot of it, if they want to grow into that place, then it's very special. And even to myself, as quote unquote, I'm not big in titles, so quote unquote, as founder, or I was like, I don't want to be CEO. I want to be someone that hopefully does what does best, which is I'm a product nerd, and I'm a creative and an artist. So, let me work in what I think I do best, which is the creative and the storytelling and the brand imaging and product, and then hire the best possible person for CEO, which we were so lucky to get Dia. We went out to a few people that we trusted, and then I ended up meeting with a few, and Dia was just overwhelming the right person.
I know you have the Wolf Pack, which you mentioned. You
Yeah.
also have a really great brand mantra, building a bigger table, which is really about making the industry more equitable and inclusive. So tell us a little bit more about that, what it means to build a bigger table and where that kind of came from.
Well, it came from my COVID experience. So, I was building the office where we have a stage with a bar. We work out of this like table that I physically built with a friend during COVID. And I used to take all these Zooms with like, sanding and like with a mask on, because it was just us and, two or three people because of COVID. And people used to say, you're building a really big table. I'm like, yeah, we're going to need it. That was kind of, it became a little bit kind of the sentence. And then one day when we were thinking about it, we were like, oh no, that's what we are about, and every, to your point, the Wolfpack, every person that kind of come on believes in that. Build a Big Table stands for everyone's welcome at a table. It doesn't matter what you look like, what you believe in. And if there's not enough room, we'll build a big table.
So tell us a little bit more about, as it relates to hiring and talent retention and acquisition. I know that the team is about 60% female led, which is extraordinarily rare in the spirits industry. It just is. Which is traditionally male dominated. It just has been. So did you proactively create a strategy around this? How have you been sourcing talent? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I come from a family of three sisters and a mother, and I think it's a great environment. So I'm definitely not afraid of that environment, which I think other people are, unfortunately. But it just came from the right thing. When we talked about diversity, it couldn't be just ethnicity. It couldn't be just sexual. It had to be everything or every aspect of it. You can't, if you're only picking one lane, then you're by definition not being diverse.
So, from Dia started obviously with Dia and our investor group, and we're 70% minority owned company, so diverse owned, sorry, owned company. So our task force, it had to be the same way. You have to um, lead by example in every shape or form. And to your point of hiring, at the beginning it was just very very natural, and it just came to be. And now it's a little more thoughtful, right? Like, we especially look for those people that are a little, that have maybe less a percentage of advantage than other cases maybe.
Well, you're definitely living the mantra, building a bigger table and bringing a lot of different people together. And speaking of diversity, your
Yeah.
investors are also very diverse. I think you
Yes.
cover a lot of different industries. You have Paris Hilton, LeBron James, of course, Drake, and then I also believe Lindsey Vonn, right?
Yeah.
A sampling of your investors. Okay, so
Yeah,
how
we
do
also have
you build
Arnold
this table?
Schwarzenegger, we have Jimmy Iovine, we have Draymond Green, we have John Wall, we have great people, and it just organically happened that they all invested in the company, and they all are incredible business people of themselves. I don't think you achieve a lot of the names we just said. They are literally the best at what they do, and you don't achieve to be the best at what you do by just being one aspect of your life. I think they bring that mentality to everything they do, and so they help us in that same mentality.
So aside from having a very exciting investor board, you're in a very exciting sector of the
Yeah,
industry. Tequila is historic. I mean, it's been for the past however many years the fastest growing spirits category consistently. Everyone's drinking tequila. Everybody has a tequila. Celebrities are all about it. So tell us what industry trends you foresee taking shape. I mean, is this momentum going to continue? Where are we headed with tequila?
I definitely see tequila not going anywhere. I think premium tequila. I think people are learning more about tequila. People want to know. We have a Joven instead of a Blanco, and people are. I've since we launched, there's a huge now demand of like people actually asking me is like, "Hey, tell me more about this Joven. What does this mean?" People really care. I think consumers are really smart in general. I don't either audience or consumers, whatever it is. I never treat them as, oh, they don't know, they don't care. I'm quite the opposite mentality. Is they'll catch up. If this is a coming trend, there's a huge part of the community that will learn about this and care, and so you can't fool them. I'm not sure we try. So tequila is that. I think other trends. I'm really excited about what's happening in gin. I think the gin, it's a great category. I feel coming was it being Spanish and being in Europe, we've been drinking gin, and it's kind of like the outdoor sitting during COVID. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is great," and I'm like, "Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time." But the gin is a little bit the same thing. It's like, "Oh my god, like the gin and tonics are great," and you're like, yeah, yeah. But I feel like the US are catching up with that, which is great. And also, I'm very excited about the cognac brandy. When you see brands like Douce doing such an incredible job, I mean, Louis, they can't make it fast enough, and I'm a big believer that, a lot of this trends start with the African American community. And I think what they did to champagne in the early 2000s, they're about to do to brandy and cognac. And it's actually, to your point of fortified wines, I'm a big believer and a big lover of those kind of wines.
So fast forward maybe 3 to 5 years, where's Lobos Tequila? What excites you most? Where are we going? And what keeps you up at night in a really exciting way?
Except I get asked that question quite a bit. It's a big part of me of like, not selling out the brand. It's so easy to, there's all these opportunities to be like, oh, this is 10,000 cases if you do this, and you're like, yeah, but that's not us. Like, and it's like we can't do that. And I'm a big custodian of that, and hopefully my justification for that is that we're building a brand, we're not building a moment. So hopefully that pays off. So to your point of 3, 5 years from now, I might be completely wrong, and then that kind of thing. The other part is the to your point of the values and that kind of thing. it's a huge part of us. So I'm a big sneaker lover, for example, and you know, like Jordan ones, which I won't bore you a lot, but Jordan ones, when Jordan did what he did, when you were a kid in the '90s and you were wearing them, another kid would like nod on you, and then you both knew you shared something, which was a set of values, you know, against the man or whatever it was at the time. And I would love in 3-4 years that someone orders a drink of Lobos at a bar, another person hears it, and they know they share more than their taste in tequila. You know, they share a little bit of, they have that nod, they share that kind of, oh, we stand for a similar thing.
Really thrilled that we had the chance to catch up today, and look forward to keeping the conversation going.
Yeah, anytime.